So 2 years ago, I set on a mission to become a full-time trader, and only after trading for a year and a half consistently, I was able to achieve my dream. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it, the good, the bad, the harsh truth no one talks about, and the lessons you don't even realize you need yet. So if you're stuck in that cycle of 9 to 5, this video will help you build your own roadmap to freedom. So guys, a bit of a backstory about how I stumbled upon trading. So before trading ever came into the picture, I was actually deep into architecture. I had a master's degree in architecture with urban planning, but somewhere along the line, I realized that as much as I loved design, I wanted more freedom. I wanted more control over my income, more control over my time, and definitely my future. So I started exploring my options. And at one point, I'm not even gonna lie, I even tried drop shipping. And honestly speaking, it never sparked anything in me. I wasn't really passionate about it, and I could feel it right away. That is when I stumbled upon trading, but not the real kind yet. The signal group kind, the ones where you're just copy pasting trades from some so-called gurus, and we all know how that really goes. Signal groups, they don't work. They're basically a scam because you're not learning anything, and the moment you hand over your money hoping it will double or triple, you've already started on the wrong foot. And that was not me. I lost tens of thousands of dollars chasing someone else's calls before realizing that if I ever wanted to make real money in trading, I had to actually learn the craft myself. So here's the thing, when I actually realized that this is what I wanted to do for life, to become a full-time trader, I needed to basically lay out a solid plan. Because I just wasn't about to walk away from a highly paid corporate job. It had to actually make sense to me, and it had to be very logical. So I came up with a plan for myself. So I set up 4 main goals that I definitely needed to hit before I could even think about leaving my corporate job. Number 1, I needed to save at least 6 to 8 months of living expenses. Number 2, I wanted to have a decent chunk of savings set aside, enough to take care of my mortgage without even stressing every month. Number 3, I wanted to make sure that I'm actually able to keep my expenses flat for the next 4 to 6 months after I go full time. And lastly, and this is the most important one, I needed to see that edge within trading. I needed to see at least 4 to 6 green months in a row. Because look, if your edge isn't proven in data while you're tired after work, it won't magically work when you quit. So you need to definitely pay attention to this. What that meant was having these ticked off would give me a safety net. So when I actually finally decided to quit, I didn't have that pressure to perform. It gave me actually space to breathe, to actually settle in, to really learn what it means to trade full time. So this was the point where I had to put the checklist in action. So the first step on this journey was facing the money situation. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I didn't want to look at my expenses, because when you're working in a place like Dubai, it's so easy to fall in that lifestyle. Those dinners, those cars, the designer, everything. You basically are swiping here, you're tapping there, you're telling yourself you deserve this, and definitely, maybe you do. But one day when you open up your bank app and it hits you that you're out here trying to build a trader's life, a life of freedom, a life of discipline, and even control, but you're spending recklessly. And that realization, when that hit me, that actually stung. So to stay more organized, I built a few Google Sheets. One for savings, I think one was for budgeting, one for paying off my mortgage. And that's where everything started. Before I could even become a full-time trader, I had to get my finances right. I set clear goals, the timelines, and I tracked everything basically, so I could hold myself accountable at the end of the day. And honestly guys, it's so much easier to do this now. You literally open ChatGPT or any AI tool. It can literally help you organize your finances. It can track your goals. It can build a system for you around your money situation. So I definitely suggest tap into that. Alright, so that was the finance bit. Now let's talk about the most important thing that most of you guys want me to address, which is how did I trade while I was still working my 9 to 5. So my work actually had a hybrid working environment, which meant that 3 out of the 5 working days I had to be in the office, which to be honest was sort of a blessing because that meant that the days I was allowed to work from home, I could actually trade properly on a big screen without distractions. So that was still okay. But the days that I had to go in, that was a completely different scenario. I was mainly trading EU and GU on forex and NAS and indices, and living in Dubai, the London session actually would fall around 11 a.m. And that's usually the time I'd be in meetings or buried in deadlines. So I had to be very, very creative. Some days, I'm not even joking, I would literally sneak off to the quiet room at work with my phone or my tablet, open up the charts, and just try to catch some setup. And to be honest with you, it wasn't glamorous at all because you don't have the right resources. The environment is so distracting and you're constantly stressed, trying to juggle everything at once. This was the worst thing I could do with my trading. It was such a disservice to my own journey because you're not focused, you can't catch a good move, you're stressed out, you're trying to juggle a few things at the same time. And when that is the case, your trading gets impacted a lot. And you know how it showed because I couldn't even pay attention to one whole hour of London or even New York AM session. So most of my trades would either hit stop loss or I would get beat. Now keep in mind that when I was actually taking away the hours or the time from work to trade, I'd actually have to work longer to finish the task at work. So I had to be very, very intentional with the time in hand. And with time and with experience on the charts, while I was still doing my 9 to 5, I realized that if I actually can't pay attention to the charts fully, if I can't be focused and give it my all with no distractions, then it's best that I leave the charts alone. I don't trade. So most of the times when I was at work and I know I can't look at the charts properly, I can't pay attention to it, I would just let that session go and come back to it later in the day to just see and observe what the price actually did. And to let you guys know, I actually didn't start off as a scalper. I was first a swing trader, then became an intraday trader, and then transitioned into a scalper. And I think as hard as it may seem to become a scalper, this was one of the best decisions because that meant I wouldn't be glued to the candles the whole day. I would have a specific trading window I'd focus on. So that was basically my routine at work. And if I'm being honest, my day didn't finish there. Because when I got home from work, there was no off switch. I'd dive right back into the charts. I would be studying it, journaling it, breaking down every trade that I've taken, the wins, the losses, and especially how I felt. There were no weekends, no off days. I know this seems harsh, this seems impossible, it might be, too much, but this is the reality. I had no Netflix nights. Even my holidays, I used them to trade, to learn, to refine, and I was obsessed. And honestly speaking, that's the kind of obsession you need if you really want this to work. Because trading isn't something you half-heartedly do. You can't treat it like a hobby and expect full-time results. I literally lived and I was breathing this stuff. Every free minute went into this craft, rewatching setups, replaying trades, understanding my own patterns. And I didn't just journal my charts, I was actually journaling me. The emotions, the triggers, the impatience, and over time, that's what changed everything. I wasn't just becoming a better trader, I was also becoming a stronger version of myself. Okay, so here is how it all came together. From October 2023 till the third quarter of 2024 was the most crucial time for me because by that time I was actually managing multiple funded accounts, was compounding on my personal account and stacking up consistent payouts. So it wasn't an overnight or one big win. It was actually 500 or even more small disciplined wins along the lines. And in 2025, I quit my job. To be honest, I was ready to quit work earlier than I did, but I remember this one trip to Bali. I was already planning to quit my 9 to 5. I had saved up enough money and honestly, I was just done with the routine, waking up to someone else's schedule, feeling boxed in. But honestly speaking, Bali, that changed something in me. When I was there, I actually felt what being a full-time trader feels like. The peace, the routine, the freedom to design my day however I wanted it to, that clarity, that control. I wasn't over trading. I wasn't even chasing any candles. I was just in a flow. And in that moment, honestly speaking, I knew that this is the life I want. Not just to escape a job, but to actually build something that actually feels like mine. That trip didn't make me rethink quitting. It made me 100% sure that I was ready, and right after that trip, I put in my resignation. So, other than becoming a full-time trader, I took my journey a step ahead as well, and I built a program in which I was helping other traders hit the same goals I once dreamt about. Because once you figure it out, trust me, the real flex isn't just about making it work for yourself. It's being able to help others do it too. So if you're watching this, you're most likely in that 9 to 5 cycle, wondering how to make that jump, but don't worry, I've got you, because I know exactly how that feels. So what I've done actually is I've created a checklist for you, right, which will actually move the needle for you. It will help you understand what steps you need to take to know for sure that you're ready. So the first thing you need to look into are your finances. This is really, really important. You need to create a tracker which would track basically your budget, how much you're spending each month, each week, whatever suits you best, the debt, if you have got any debt, the savings you've got, and to be honest, just be completely honest with yourself, because if you're not, then it's going to show up later in your journey. So you rather address it right now. Next thing what I want you to do is I want you to pick your session and one asset that actually moves in it. Now, if you're working 9 to 5, let's say you can't trade London session or you can't be there for New York KM session, then pick a session that you're actually available, that you can actually sit in front of your laptop or your desktop and actually trade with full attention and no distraction. And that's the session you're going to show up to every single day. Now, the next point, you should already have this, but let's say you don't, or maybe you do and you want to refine it. You want to have a strict trading plan in which you're mentioning the number of trades you're allowed to take in a day, the risk percentage per trade, and you need to be journaling as well. For me personally, whether this was when I was working or even now when I'm a full-time trader, I'm only allowed to take 2 trades in a day with a fixed risk percentage. You know, I journal my trades, I journal my emotions as well, and I have a walk-away protocol so I don't end up overtrading. The next step is choose your funding path. Whether you're trading your own personal capital, whether you're actually on prop firms, or even both, you need to have a steady flow of income coming from it. And lastly, you need to set a quit criteria you can't argue with. So you need to have at least 6 to 8 months of expenses saved. You need to also have 4 to 6 consecutive profitable months. So you need data to actually back that up. Now, if you're trading a prop firm account, what I would suggest is that I know most of them actually give you 4% daily drawdown, but actually create a limit for yourself. So let's say you're trading drawdown limit every single day is maybe 3% or even 2.5%. This will help you stay disciplined. And finally, this is basically bare minimum. You need to at least have 500 plus track trades proving your edge. Now, if you're deciding to quit and that checklist isn't green yet, you don't quit. Right? This is not a punishment. This is basically protecting you, protecting your psychology, protecting your trading journey. And look, I know it sounds like a lot, but I'm telling you, once you start checking those boxes off one by one and you keep the system, the strategy simple, that's when everything starts to shift. That's when trading stops feeling like a dream and starts feeling like your reality. Because honestly speaking, that's exactly how it happened for me. And I know for a fact that it can happen for you too. And another thing, honestly, none of it would have happened without God. So you gotta thank God, because you know, most people, they wake up every day to do something they don't even like. You know, they drag themselves out of bed half asleep, they get stuck in traffic, they sit at a desk all day, and you know, they spend the rest of it counting down till they can finally leave. Honestly guys, it's crazy how 9 to 5 life actually turns people into obedient machines. Like, you're told when to show up, when you can leave, what to say, how to say it. Every move is managed, every word is measured. Now, I understand that 9 to 5 is the safest option. I came from that because, you know, you've got bills to pay, maybe car payments to make, maybe a mortgage, maybe even people depending on you. So you build this life that looks stable on the outside, but deep down, you know it's restrictive. You know it and you can feel it. So if you ever want out, you gotta give yourself some breathing room. Save up a little, build a plan. Use every minute outside of your job to work on your way out, to build something that is yours. Because honestly speaking, The truth is, no one's coming to save you. It's all on you. And that's not a bad thing, honestly. It just means that you have control. So if you really want to make it as a trader, you need to be obsessed with making it full-time thing. You gotta want it that bad. If let's say you only get an hour a day, make that hour count. Be sharp. Be disciplined. Protect that time like your life depends on it. Because look, most people will never get to know this feeling. They talk about change, but they never actually bet on themselves. But the few who do, the ones who grind after hours, who build instead of complain, they're the ones who break free. And that feeling of growing an account, that is yours, built from patience, built from discipline and belief, it hits different. And it's just not numbers on the chart. It's proof that you trusted yourself when no one else did. So in this case, no paychecks, no boss, no good job from a supervisor could ever replace that. Because this isn't about showing off wins. It's about what it takes to get them. The nights you stayed up studying, even though you had work in the morning, the mornings you showed up after taking a loss the day before, the way you kept pushing, even when people would have quit. Those are the moments that change everything. And when it finally clicks, when you trust your edge, when you move with confidence, that freedom hits you. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's quiet, it's real, and it's very, very personal. That's real success. Not the kind you post about, the kind you feel. And the truth is, you can get there as well. If you just keep showing up, stay patient, and keep betting on yourself every single day.